We are now recording on Zoom, and we also are live on YouTube, and it's coming up right now, so we can get started. It's going to be great tonight. I put quite a bit into this week. I had some time, and so I think it's going to be really good. Now I'm going to have to mute this as soon as it starts. We are now recording on. That's another thing. If I'm going live, why would you have it start the video that I'm live on the computer that I'm going live on? That just doesn't seem logical. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is the Southwest Florida TechNet, and my name is Ian. And tonight we've got a great show for everybody tonight. Let me see if I can switch cameras here. I'm live at my station here in North Fort Myers. At or KO4 EFS Studios, whichever you would like to say. And I've had an interesting week, and I've had a lot of time to work on this. So I decided this week I wanted to do something just a little bit different. I decided, you know what I want to do this time? I want to go and I want to do the sounds of ham radio. You know, we talk all the time about the modes and, oh, you got to use this program and that wire and this radio and that band and this license does that. But we don't ever talk much about what we hear on the radio. And so tonight I want to take a time to actually go through all the different, or not all, but nearly all of the different sounds that you might hear when you're wheeling around with the big dial on all the different radio frequencies. And we're going to start mostly with ham stuff. But a lot of this stuff applies outside of ham radio, and then we are going to go outside of ham radio just a little bit at the end to a few other sounds that you might hear on the radio. I've got a lot of audio tonight. I've got about 45 clips. So you're actually going to get to hear what each mode or what each type of signal sounds like. You know, it's important to, in amateur radio, I think one of the things that's important to do is when you do hear something when you're wheeling around, that you know what it is that you're actually seeing. And I think it's something that, I could tell you right now what FT8 sounds like because I use it. I was very surprised going through these, what some of these sound like. Some of them sound like a sci-fi movie from the 70s. And some of them sound just very mundane, like you wouldn't even know it was anything in the background noise hardly. But we're going to go through all these different ones, and we're going to listen to each type, and then we'll discuss what kind of system it is that uses that type of sound. And we're going to talk first about digital because the sound stuff's a little more interesting, so I pushed it towards the end. But we are going to actually listen to QSOs being bounced off of different things and stuff at the end, so stick with us. But we are going to go ahead and start first with the digital stuff because it's taken over, guys. I hate to say it. It's not ever going to replace voice, but it does take out a little bit bigger piece of the chunk every year, and I think it's going to be harder and harder every year to find more people on phone. So I think all of us in ham radio need to really work on getting more people into the hobby. And that's why I keep saying we got to get more people into the hobby because when it comes to these digital modes, there's so many of them. There's so many bands and there's so many modes and there's so many. I'm surprised we ever find anybody to talk to. Then again, I normally don't. That's why I'm on FT8. But anyway, so tonight we're going to go through each of these modes and we're going to look at them and listen to them. And I've got the spectrum. Now, I want to say something about the spectrum real quick before we go on. Every radio has a different kind of spectroscope, or whatever you want to call it, a spectrum waterfall, a representation of the sound in some form visually. And because there's all different kinds of these, I'm going to show you a waterfall that they're not all going to look the same because I got them from different sources, but you can still see the basic pattern within the waterfall. And that's what we're looking for. It's not going to look exactly like the one on your radio, but it will give you a basic idea of what the pattern would look like visually. So we're just going to jump right into the digital ones and we can run right through these. They're pretty cool. There's a lot of these, like ASCII, for instance, and we'll do these mostly in alphabetical order. This is ASCII, known as ITA5 or IRA. I've never heard of those two. It's an amateur radio telegraphy signal using the ITA5 alphabet. It can pretty much be used anywhere on any frequency below UHF or in and below UHF. and it uses narrow FM or upper sideband, depending on where you're using it. Usually, as you know, the higher you go on frequency, the more likely you are to run it more into FM. And then, of course, you can see the rest of the information there. And this one sounds like this. And that reminds me of the old days with the, this is an old story, but my dad's plumbing company, years ago when I was a kid, I was like 10 years old, they had this teletype, and it was a piece of furniture that sat in the corner of this business. And it would start going off, and you'd hear, rah, 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 and this thing would start running. And it's the person on the other, it's directly typing the letters in, and it's typing them out on the other three. And so the one company, all they had to do was type something, and all the other three would have it in real time. And that's what this reminds me of, because that's what it sounded like when the signal would start coming through. But kind of a, an older style digital signal on that. Does anybody have anything on ASCII before we go on? Okay, I'm going to ask on each of these real quick. If anybody's used one of these modes or has anything to impart, please do. Okay, again, I'm facilitating, not teaching. So I would like to bring any information you have to the people tonight. So help me do that. All right, the next one is the automatic packet reporting system, or the tongue tying APRS. And it's a packet system for real-time data communication used by hams for location reporting, weather stations. We have some guys doing APRS. I know W9GPI does some APRS stuff. Yeah, Dave does it. So if you guys are interested, there is a few guys in the club in FMARC, and also John, AA4JS. There's some guys in the club that do it. So if you're interested in the APRS system, it's pretty cool. You actually hook it up to your radio, and then your radio sends and receives little data packets and sends telemetry, basically, of whatever you want to send, your location, time, different things you can send over it. It's pretty cool. The next one is Clover 2. And I didn't go over Clover 1 because Clover 1 is outdated and it's been demobilized. They're not using that anymore. So Clover 2 was an advancement on that previous Clover 1 that's now out, with 4-tone pulses and a max data rate of 750 bits per second. This is, it was called Q Clover, Quad Clover. There was a bunch of different things. I really haven't heard too much about this one. Clover protocol aids in the transmitting of digital data over high frequency waves without the additional control characters required in other transmissions, and it minimizes the amount of throughput that you have there. And well, you can read it there. It's apparently pretty good with data correction, and it repairs its own errors, because I guess it sends it through a couple times or whatever with some kind of redundancy there. But anyway, this is what this one sounds like.
Just so you know, the audio clip plays fine for about 1 second and then gets really quiet. It did this on the last one too. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, hey, there we go. How's that? Is that okay now?
It stopped playing.
Can
I can't hear
someone
it.
tell me if that
Clip is over.
okay? Well, okay, how about now?
I hear it in bursts. I think that's probably normal though. I think it's just the clip. I think it's fine.
Okay, I'll leave it turned up a little more so it's good and loud so everybody can hear it. To me, it sounds like a cricket. It's, well, you know. All right, the next one, let's see here. The next one is the Clover 2000, the Clover 2500. These are all advancements on the previous one we just talked about. Not going to get too in depth into these, because the purpose tonight, remember, is just to identify what they look like and what they sound like. We're not really getting into which is better or which sucks. Has anybody used any of the Clover systems?
I have not.
Okay. All righty. What this one sounds like. Wow. You could lock somebody you don't like in a room with that one. All right, let's see. The next one here is Contestia. Contestia, I guess. I guess that's how it's pronounced. Has anybody heard of this one? Anybody know anything about this one?
I have seen it on
All right,
software, but I've never used it.
Yeah, I've seen a few of these like in tabs on stuff, but I've never tried it either. Anyway, there you go. You can see it. It's a compromise of speed and performance. Each time they make one of these, it's, you know, they end up getting more speed or they end up getting more performance. But anyway, this one works over USB, and this one's designed mostly for lower bands. Here's what it sounds like. Contestia.
That only played for about 4 seconds and it's still going, but there's no audio.
Yeah, it got really quiet again.
I don't know why that's still. I'm hearing it perfect on my end.
It almost sounds like some kind of
little.
like auto volume control or something. That's what it sounds like to me.
All right, let's try this again here.
It did it again. It's barely audible.
Yeah, it shows you got 21 seconds of audio, but it only plays for 4 and then it just keeps counting down.
The audio is still playing. It's just very quiet. I can still hear it in my headphones, but it's very quiet.
I'm blasting it into this thing as loud.
Ian, does your sound device have an AVC, automatic volume control?
I don't think so. You still can't hear that at all?
I hear it now. Now it's quiet again. It's like every time you adjust it, it's loud for a second and then gets quiet again. It must be some kind of automatic volume control. Windows sometimes tries in lower volume of applications if you're in something like a Zoom call. It's got a built-in thing that'll do that.
I tried running it all the way down to where it's barely coming in, and I've tried running it all the way up to where it's blaring, and it doesn't seem to make any difference. You don't hear that?
I hear that, but every time you make an adjustment, it gets loud, but whenever it's just playing, it gets really quiet.
All right, well, let's try the next one here. This is D-Star. It is digital voice protocol. You guys know this one. This was the one that's made by ICOM. And there's always the argument over whether these are proprietary or not. This one pretty much is. And it works over VHF and UHF. It uses a narrow FM mode. And there's your bandwidth and everything right there. Let's see if you can hear this one. Nothing? Can you guys hear that?
Just
I can hear it.
short bursts.
Whistling feature turned on, because it might be that.
It's so weird because it's like I can see in the mic that I'm sending, I can see the volume dip down to nothing.
See, that one, I could hear it. It was slowly getting quieter over time.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know.
wonder if there is audio settings or something in here. I don't know. That is weird because I don't understand what's going on right now. And I tested this earlier and listened to it through the headphones, and they were working fine. But you know how that is. Let's see here. Give me just a second here. Suppress background noise. Let me turn that.
That might be it.
Automatically adjust microphone volume off. Let's see what
That's
that
probably
does.
what's doing it. Yeah, I think that worked. I can hear it fine now.
Okay, I think that let's try that, guys. Let's go on. Sorry about that. It is what it is. Jeez. If I was getting paid for this, this would be unacceptable. Okay, here we go. This next one is FSQ, Fast Simple QSO. I've never heard of some of these, but they're all considered still used. I don't know. That's kind of like when they say on the news, people are asking questions. Do you know who those people are? They're the people in the newsroom. And this is the thing here, who's using it? I think the only people using it are the people that made it. It's pleasant. It's like that could be a ringtone. Oh, wait, that's FSQ calling. Hold on, I'll be right back. Okay.
Yeah,
But anyway,
I've heard that audio when I've been on FL Digi doing PSK.
mm-hmm.
I've heard that audio, so that's called FSQ. Okay, that I'll have to keep that in mind because I wondered what that modulation was.
Yeah, it's. I'm sure it's very. I mean, it's a very slow bit rate, but I'm sure it's made for just a keyboard communication or something. But I don't know what decodes that. We'd have to look that up. I've got some decoders coming up, but I don't have a specific decoder for each one. The next one is the Fun Cube. I didn't know about this either. I kind of read on this a little bit. It's interesting. When I say I read on it, I went to their website. They don't really write much. Have you ever been to those websites where it's like a website about something, but you go through the whole website and you can't see where they actually wrote anything about the thing that you're actually there to see? Yeah, the government does that a lot. Anyway, FunCube. This is the UK amateur radio education satellite, and it sends out telemetry, and there's all your information on it. But it's supposed to be something you can make, I guess, digital QSOs through. I guess. Kind of sounds like a fax machine in Russia with a dying battery, but I don't know. It could be. All right. Anyway, but that's FunCube. I guess it comes over us at some point. Anyway, JSA call. This one's starting to get a little more popular. I think Cars is starting to work with this a little bit. It's basically FT8, but it's more robust in that it gives you the ability to communicate more than just your signal report and your grid square, which is basically all you do in FT8. That's it. This actually allows you to communicate additional information and actually have a conversation back and forth. How big's the fish? What's the weather like? That kind of stuff. And it works anywhere 50 megahertz and down, and it works on upper sideband. And let's hear what this one sounds like. Okay, and I let it go for a minute because you heard the division there. That obviously it's going to send for so many seconds and then receive back for so many seconds, whatever it's set, whatever setting you're using. And I think JS8 call has 4 different ones, and each one has a different time interval. That's one of the things that adjusts. I don't know a lot about JS8 call. I know that Cars up in Charlotte County is experimenting with JS8 call as a form of emergency communication through their FEMA stuff up there. So that's going to be interesting to see if they ever vet this as like we have with WinLink as an emergency management tool. So that'll be interesting. I'm kind of been involved in a little bit of that. It's been neat. Anyway, let's see here. JT65. JT65 is a let's see, has 3 sub modes. The most popular one is the JT65A. I don't know. I've never heard this one. I don't know anything about this one, JT65, but I think this is one of the newer ones. You know, one thing I noticed with the ones like this that are designed, you know, we're trying to get further and further and further away. You'll notice that they actually, it gets to be somewhat simplistic because we're sending it over a really weak signal very far away. And so some of these protocols, the reason they all sound very different and some of them sound very peculiar is because, like I said, they're trying to communicate over a great distance and get above the noise. And so that was kind of a cool one there. The next one is, this is an interesting thing. Your antenna analyzer. This one. It puts out a signal, obviously, that goes through your antenna at a few a few milliwatts, big deal, right? Different.
Yeah, what's the difference?
Mega. People make such a big deal over numbers, you know. But anyway, your antenna analyzer actually will put out a signal into there, and it's weird what it sounds like. And if you're ever in your shack and you hear this, you might have left your antenna analyzer on. There you go. That's your antenna analyzer. It actually puts out that noise through the antenna so that it can analyze it. So there you go. And that's for the MFJ. They're all a little different. The next one, MSK44. And it's a minimum shift keying FSK signal used for amateur radio meteor scatter contacts. It's one of those things, I doubt you'd ever hear this because it's probably very rarely used, but it's one of those things. So you know that it's out there. This is one of the protocols that's out there for something. Look, meteor scatter is probably one of the weaker signals of anything you're going to try. I mean, you really have to have good equipment. It's for people that are a lot better than me at everything. So here we go. Yeah, and that pretty much just does that. But that's what that sounds like. And yeah. Okay, the next one, MT63, an orthogonal frequency division, multiplexed digital data mode aimed for use in high noise environments. I actually got that. Did you see? I got all that. That's the news guy in me. Just read it. Just read it. Read it like you own it, even if you screw it all up. Developed for, designed for keyboard to keyboard conversations on HF amateur radio bands. And there you go. And notice it's real low frequency stuff. It's all HF. And lower sideband. Here's what it sounds like. Fax machine. Okay, and the next one. Does anybody have anything on the last few? I can go back. I've kind of forgot to ask. They're all some of the newer ones. So, did anybody have anything?
Ian, I have a question. When you hear this stuff, how do you know which it is, and how do you know what formats or whatever to decode it?
Well, there's several ways. Number one, you can look at the frequency you found it on, and then go search that frequency for what digital mode utilizes that frequency. That's the easiest way to figure out what it is, because you'll notice when you go through those bands, like on 7 megahertz, when you're up around 0.05 through, well, actually no, it's even lower than that. There's, in the lower frequencies, there's the digital band in there. And when you're going through those, you'll hear something that you can't identify. The first thing you can start with is, what frequency is it on? Put that in the Google and see if it comes back. Oh, that's JT35 or whatever. And then that'll get you in the ballpark. You know, as far as number two, you could try to put it into your different decoders.
So are you implying that these different formats are frequency specific?
They're not required to be frequency specific, but they usually are. Like all the FT8 people meet on the same frequency. If you're going to 40 meters, you're going to 7.074. That's what you're going to, because that's where all the other FT8 people are. So when you're dialing around, and between 0.74 and 0.76, you hear all this weird traffic that looks like a zipper on the waterfall. That is FT8. And if you weren't sure what that is, you could look up on the computer, what's on 7.074 ham radio. That's all you got to type. And it will come back and tell you that's the amateur radio band for FT8 or whatever. And that's an easy way to get you into the ballpark. The second way is you can get some of these programs we're going to talk about later, FL Digi and WJXTX, and go through and try to start decoding and see if you can figure out one that will decode it. I know John and some of the other guys have used or used the FL Digi a lot more than I have. I don't have much experience with that, but I know it's an amazing program. And but the WJXTX or whatever, there's about 12 modes in that one now, I think. And there's other modes. I know, like CW, for instance, we're doing that one next. CW. There's decoders for CW now that are actually pretty good. I think FL Digi does that one too. So, and you guys, please interject when you have anything tonight. Interrupt me. The next one is Morse code. And Morse code is going to, of course, the same thing I just talked about. There's actually bands down on the lower end of each band. There's sections, there's swaths that are cut out for CW. And I know when I go on and listen, normally I hardly ever hear CW up in the phone bands. It's always down in the CW band. So it's one of those things that you'll know that that's CW. It's down in those CW bands. And here's what, of course, you guys know what this sounds like. I don't think that was one I probably didn't need to put in there. But it's interesting though. Did it? Oh, here. Yeah. And then I hit the button. There we go. Okay. And then multi-frequency shift keying, MFSK. I don't know if anybody's used that one. But these are two well-known amateur radio modes. They're well-known. I don't know who they're well-known by, but somebody. Anyway, but they used a bunch of tones. You can see what they do there, but it's used on upper sideband, and it's something that's done down in the lower bands. Sorry, I keep clicking the button on the mouse, which makes it go to the next slide. I got to stop doing that. This is what MFSK sounds like. Okay, and if people can't hear these, let me know, and I will turn them up, because I can turn it up now. I've got that problem fixed. I can make these a little bit louder if you want me to. Okay, the next one is Olivia. this is another one. It's talked about online like it's a big deal, but I really have not heard much about it. It's an amateur radio teletype protocol using multiple frequency shift keying, which is kind of the same thing we just talked about, and designed to work in difficult low signal to noise ratio multipath propagation conditions on shortwave bands. The signal can be accurately received even if the surrounding noise is 10 dB or stronger. That's kind of like me here with my power lines. It is commonly used by amateur radio operators to reliably transmit ASCII characters over noisy channels using high frequency spectrum. You can get about 150 characters a minute on Olivia, and here's what it sounds like. All right. And the next one, packet. Packet radio is digital radio communication mode used to send packets of data. Packet radio uses packet switching to transmit datagrams. This is very similar to how packets of data are actually transmitted between nodes on the internet. Packet radio can be used to transmit data long distances. And this works on a multitude of frequencies, but it generally uses upper sideband. And here's what it sounds like. Okay, enough of that. Okay. And the next one, Packdoor, through 1 through 4. Now, Packdoor is something that it's a fairly expensive WinLink type thing, isn't it? Can somebody help me with this? I think that's what
yeah, it's a type of modulation. I think some of the guys in the HF WinLink are using Packdoor. Packdoor 1 is obsolete, not being used by anybody now. And I think we're authorized to use Packdoor 2, but I don't think we can use 3 or 4. That's mostly for government and business, but I haven't heard that we were authorized for that. But I think Dave down in Naples, he's doing Packdoor.
There's so, can you guys see what I'm getting at tonight with this other? I mean, there's kind of like the B plot, if you will, tonight. The A plot is we're doing all these great sounds. The B plot is, oh my God, look at all these different modes. How do we ever find each other? Okay, anyway, here's some of the sounds of Packdoor. Packdoor 1. And then Packdoor 2.
Sound like a bullfrog in a pond.
I was, God bless, stop. Sounds like a pissed off vulture. That's Packdoor 3. And then, of course, Packdoor 4. All right. And that's one you probably, like I said, I do hear this one from time to time. Not on the radio, but I may hear it talked about. I see it on the internet. Phase shift keying, or PSK, is a 31 baud. It's popular computer sound card generated radio teletype mode used primarily by amateur radio operators. This is just another, it's yet another mode. And it's basically all the same stuff we've been talking about. Works on just about any frequency and utilizes upper sideband. That's what it looks like right there. And here's what it sounds like.
PSK 31 is actually in the I think it's in the general and the technician ham exam. They ask you questions about PSK 31, such as like questions about the baud rate, and there's a few other modes in there that they ask you questions about, but I distinctly remember PSK 31 being one of them.
Oh,
We do PSK on Thursday nights at 8 o'clock, 8 o'clock to 9, sometimes 10 when we get a few people in here. But so you can hear that. But we're not doing 31, we're doing 250, PSK 250. And there, if you go to FL Digi, you'll see in the PSK, there's about 8 or 10 different options that you can pick different speeds. Of course, the higher the number, the wider the bandwidth you're using.
yeah, it uses a wider bandwidth so you can do it basically faster, right? That's the difference?
That's correct. Yeah, your transmissions get the data across faster the higher the number.
Yeah, just so you guys notice, you see how the bandwidth, the width of this waterfall image here. You guys understand that the wider amount of frequency that we can use to modulate in, the more data we can pass through that. And when you've got a very narrow bandwidth and you've got a weak signal, you're spelling disaster there. All right, so the next one, radio teletype, or RTTY. I've never heard it also called these other two things I've never heard of. This one's dying out along with some of the others, I guess. There you go. Let's hear what it sounds like. And that one, that sounds actually kind of familiar.
I have a little thing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
There are some die-hard RTTY operators, though.
And yeah, they have contests every year on the ham bands, and I was going to say something about it, and I forgot what it was. Go ahead, Joseph.
We did some research on RTTY. And actually, an interesting story is there's actually a person who claimed to be able to decode it by ear, because it's essentially two lines of Morse code happening at the same time. I think that's what it is. I may be wrong, but I remember hearing a story about someone being able to decode RTTY by ear.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. And you know what? It bugs me because there's a couple things on my big rig that I haven't learned about yet. I got a big ICOM rig for my voice stuff, and it has an RTTY button on it. And when you press it, it's like you can put messages in there. And so I guess it does that. Who knew?
That's actually one of the first.
Go ahead, Joseph.
When we first got our ICOM 7300, my brother Micah sat out in the garage for a couple hours just doing RTTY, and he actually made a contact with somebody on RTTY, but we couldn't get anybody on voice. But RTTY actually worked okay. So that's it actually is somewhat functional.
Well, as you know, when any digital mode is going to give you more range than voice. What was that, Dave?
Yeah, get your manual out, because your ICOM will decode it on your screen. It will show you what is being sent.
That's cool.
Get it out, because my ICOM does that.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to check that. It's got the nice screen on it and everything. I'm going to check that out, and just because I need to learn how to do, I want to learn how to do everything this radio does. I've had it for about 9 months now. And I used to be one of those people that just mastered everything I bought. And I'm kind of, well, let's just say I've lowered my own expectations slightly now that I've got so much complicated crap. But anyway, let's see. The next one is Whisper, Weak Signal Propagation Reporter. Whisper is basically, these are beacons that you can listen to out there. And I guess does everybody transmit on this? I guess I'm trying to remember. I don't know much about Whisper, I'll be honest. Like I said, guys,
usually it's a one-way mode.
Yeah, it is. It just receiving.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's basically a very low energy thing. So you can see what, if you can get it, like it's a low power thing. Here's what it sounds like.
Very low power transmitter and set this thing up. use your, you know, kind of like the web pages that you've got that you show. And I can't think of the name of any of them right now, but they show the propagation around the world.
And it really has a bandwidth of only 6 hertz.
Yeah, look how razor thin that is. It's like, wow. Well, and listen to it. You can tell. I think the whole idea is it's supposed to be weak. It's supposed to be, you know, barely there type of thing. But anyways, anybody else have anything else on Whisper? I know that WSJTX has a Whisper mode, but I have not used it yet. I can't get out of FT8 and FT4. Yaesu System Fusion. We have a Fusion Net FM ARC Wednesday nights. Great net. I borrowed a Fusion radio for about 6 or 8 weeks and got on the net, and it's an awesome net. It's Fusion Net. You can start checking in at like 7:30, and it starts at 8 o'clock on Fusion on one of the local rooms. You have to figure out how to do it. It's I have to admit, I have used a Fusion radio, and it's fairly complicated, a digital. I've been told the D-Star digitals are fairly complicated. The DMR is insanely complicated, especially to program. So I suggest to so many people, get your HF up, get your FT8 going. There's so much more to do in amateur radio before you get into these 3 digital voice modes. There's so many other things to do that are so much cooler and so much more fun and so much less frustrating. Okay, but anyway, here's what Yazoo sounds like. I don't know how these systems pick their own system out from the background noise, because most of that just sounds like background noise to me. But anyway, Vera HF. This is the new one here. This is the new WinLink Vera FM. And so you probably will be hearing this. You can go to a certain frequency here in town and hear this on FM, on VHF. And you can also, I believe they're using Vara all over HF as well. So here's what Vara sounds like. And this is an up and coming mode right here. Probably going to be big. I'm convinced I heard that used on 70s science fiction shows. I'm convinced. Maybe Buck Rogers in the 25th century or Battlestar Galactica. I'm not sure which. Anyway, all right. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm an old sci-fi guy. I love this, all the stupid sound effects from the 70s. They were so bad. You ever notice? Yeah, well, I never understood R2D2. We're so advanced, and we make all the, but we can't make the thing talk. Okay, whatever. All right, so let me go back. FT8, we got FT4, slow scan TV. This is one of the next things I want to do, and at the end, Joseph's going to tell us about next week's show, where we're going to be doing next week's net, whatever you want to call this thing. Next week's Zoom production is going to be about receiving direct images from a satellite as it goes over your house, and we're actually going to be working with that, and we're going to get towards that at the end of the show. But this is slow scan TV, and if anybody's done it or would like to talk about it, I know there's several people in here that do slow scan TV. Just like phone has nothing to do with the telephone, slow scan TV has nothing to do with the TV. So this is just one more of those confusing things. Ham radio has nothing to do with ham.
Yeah, but ham means amateur.
Yeah,
actually, it means ham-fisted. The original term came from ham-fisted because people would call amateur radio operators ham-fisted for some reason, and I guess that means not good at something back in the 70s or whenever that was a thing. So yeah, that's how it's become ham radio.
Way back in 70s, just right after they started recording things. Anyway, I thought of about 5 jokes there, but I'll just leave it on the table. The 70s, I'll tell you what, man, and we're going to get into this in just a minute. We're going to get into there's been a few big changes in amateur radio, and we'll get into that here in just a minute. But anyway, slow scan TV. Let's finish with this. I don't want to get too far off track. SSTV. There's a group in town that does this, I think, once a week. And if somebody can tell me about that, tell us about it. Tell us about it, because it's something I want to get involved with. I've been told, and please, somebody correct me, tell me. I've been told all I need is if I'm hooked up for FT8, all I need is to download a program and I can do this.
Yep.
Pretty much it.
Yeah.
You can actually do it with your cell phone held against the speaker of the radio.
Yeah, Ian, the program is called MMSTV.
That's MMSSTV. Two
And
S's.
Yeah, two S's, right. And we call it Mickey Mouse for the MM. But anyway, you can download that for free. And we do that on Thursday nights at 8 o'clock on the 820 repeater. And we start out with messages in FL Digi, PSK 250, and then we switch over and we send 3 pictures each in the course of the night. But yeah, it's slow scan, and this is what NASA did in the very beginning when they landed things on faraway planets. They sent it back in slow scan until they got to where they could send back fast scan live video.
And you can see that that's actually, I guess, an image. Joseph was telling me that's an image from a video game, I guess. But they sent that through slow scan TV, and it looks like that because it was probably, they weren't receiving all that well. So you're going to get some artifact in there, they call it, or there's different words for it, but you're going to get a lot of anomalies in there. But you can still see what it is.
Yeah, you don't necessarily need any equipment to do it. All you need is your transceiver and a computer, and then you can just use the audio acoustic coupling. If you got a little handheld or something, you could hold it up near the microphone on the computer, and it will download it or decode it. And for transmission, you just hold your microphone close to the speaker on the computer, and that's why some people get started. But I'm using a signal link with mine.
I believe that's the program we're talking about there.
That's the program.
Okay, there you go, guys. There's your program. And you heard the times. That's what you do. Remember, you don't even have to do anything. You can just receive the first couple weeks and see if you're receiving. You practice, and then find somebody that has it and practice with them, and then eventually get involved with the group at night, sending pictures to everybody else. And remember, it's ham radio, so everything we do is a practice learning thing. So, but I think that would be that's one of the next things I want to do. That and this thing Joseph's talking about with the satellites. I've got like 2 bugs I've got going on right now. Plus I got field day coming up. So there's all kinds of different things going on. But anyway, we're still talking about slow scan TV. Is there anything else on SSTV before we move on? Notice it can be sent in pretty much any mode.
Yeah, it's just audio.
Yeah, it's literally just a sound that plays over the sound card into the radio. And there you go. All right, and here's what it sounds like again. And that's one you may hear on your FM if you've got are they on an ARRI standard frequency list frequency, or are they on another frequency when they do their scan stuff? I don't know. Every now and then I hear digital stuff when I'm scanning around. So you might hear this on one of the standard frequencies when people are sending stuff. All right.
820 channel 3.
Channel 3.
Affirmative.
Yeah, well, there you go. And then they send it over the repeater, right over
That's
there.
affirmative.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, there you go. So that's great, because over the repeater, that means a lot more of us would be in range. So that's awesome. So all you need, guys, is a computer, that piece of software,
Or
your
a cell
FM
phone.
or a cell phone, your VHF radio hooked up to the computer on the sound card, and you're set to go. And truthfully, you don't have to send anything back to try it. You can just download the software and see if you can receive something. Anyway, there you go. That's Slow Scan TV.
You will also hear it on HF in a couple of different places.
Is there actually like?
Yeah, there are certain frequencies that that the guys that do that gravitate to, and gosh, I'm looking at my notes and I can't find one right off the top of my head, but
Meters 14230.
14230. There you go. I knew it was in that range someplace.
Slow scan channel.
Well, there you go, guys. And all you got to do is hook your radio up to your computer, and right from the headphone right into the microphone. Set your level to where it's not too high. Remember, with digital stuff, too high is just as bad as too low. And put it on that channel and just let it listen for a couple hours and come back and see if you found anything. You don't know unless you try. I like I said, every night I leave at least one or two radios on doing some kind of research project, monitoring this, logging anything that comes in on that, tracking this for PSK reporter or whatever. Every night I got at least one or two radios running some kind of receive project in my shed. And I get up in the morning and I see what I found. I've got a program called Scanner Record where I can actually record a channel for 24 hours and come back, and it only records when there's actually something on the channel. So I can listen to a whole 24 hours worth of information, a whole 24 hours worth of audio. Well, if there wasn't much on there, it would just be in a matter of a minute or two. I can see, like, when we started using the 444-775 repeater, we're using that quite a bit up here. I recorded that for 3 or 4 days. And I went back and looked, and there was nothing but the ID for day after day after day, nothing but the ID. And I was able to throw it into Adobe and look at the waveform and just see that it's ID. But that's a great way to see if you're picking something up on a frequency. And this slow scan TV is something you could literally put it on that frequency and just leave it on. See what you get in the morning. All right. FT4. WSJTX and FT4 and FT8, you can leave those on all night too. They won't get you any contacts because you need to obviously do that personally, but they will monitor all night long. And then in the morning, you go to the PSK reporter and put in your call sign, and now you know what your station heard overnight. I do that a few times. I've actually put my 2-meter Yagi facing north, my 2-meter Yagis facing north, and literally hook that up to a computer and put it on the 2-meter FT8, and I'll come back in 12 hours and it will have heard 3 or 4 stations out there. I don't think I could have contacted. I'm vertically polarized. They're probably horizontal. I don't know. It's sideband, so who knows? But the point is I'm researching to see what's out there when stuff happens. FT4 is kind of the little brother to FT8. FT4 is twice as fast and twice as much bandwidth. So remember, anytime when the bandwidth gets wider, we can reduce the amount of time that we have to transmit to get the same amount of data through. So anyway, this is a protocol. This is the WSJTX program. If you're already using FT8, this is just another setting up in the top. You go to modes and you change it to FT4 and you change the frequency on your rig if you don't have rig control. And basically FT4, it's great because you know how you sit there and you got to wait 15 seconds and then you click something and you wait 15 seconds. Well, with FT4, you're only waiting 7.5 seconds. So it's kind of like FT8 on crack. It's just, it's quick. But the problem with it is they say it doesn't work quite as well. It was kind of an FT8 for contesting was what I think what the original thought was, is what I read in one of the things I read. It was kind of like FT8 for contesting because it was supposed to be quicker. Problem is, you'll go here a lot on different bands and there's never anybody. Let me tell you the trick to FT4. You go to FT8. If it's so busy you can't find a parking spot, you know, you pull into the lot and you look down both sides of the parking row and there's no parking spots. You guys know what I'm talking about if you work FT8. Then switch to FT4, because I guarantee you when the FT8 waterfall is too full for you to even find a good spot to get on there, that's when people gravitate towards FT4. And then you can go up there and you can knock out 6 or 8 in a row on FT4 in a matter of a few minutes, and then go back to FT8 and check the parking lot again. Okay, anyway, here's what FT4 sounds like. And of course, it's in 7.5 second intervals. I've made a number of FT4 contacts, but not near as many as FT8. Like I said, FT4 is kind of my go-to when my FT8's too busy. See, everybody always wants it to be busy, busy, busy. On FT8, it can be too busy. If the band's too open sometimes and too many people are on there, you cannot find a clear spot to put your transmitter. And if you can't find a clear spot, you really shouldn't transmit. So I will, if it's too full, I go to another band. I'll go to, you know, I've been on 80 a lot. My FT8, I've been going to 80 a lot. Anyway, this is what FT8 sounds like. This is the big one here. Now I want you to notice something with FT4 and with FT8 and with a lot of these other modes. If you look at the waterfall, it looks like a zipper. You notice how it kind of, everything's split into two. There's like A, B, A, B, A, B, and that's exactly what it is. It is split into two. Each row represents 15 seconds of time. Remember, on a waterfall, when we move this way, we move down frequency. When we move this way, we move back in time. That's how a waterfall works. So what we're looking at with this waterfall, each one of these lines here represents 15 seconds of time. And so you can see that this spot's open right here to transmit. It's kind of open there. That's, if I had to go somewhere, it would be right here, because that's about the best spot I can find. But then I would make sure that whatever I'm doing, it would be on this side of the parking lot, because this is just too crowded. But you're going to see it gets real crowded, and that's great in a way, but in not in another way. FT4 and FT8. Here's the big problem with FT4 and FT8. You're restricted to your message size. For those of you who've never used it, this is a typical message. This is what your message is going to look like. You're going to call CQ from your call sign, and then they'll respond to you back, and you can see basically how the QSO goes. A QSO is generally 6 transmissions, maybe 7. That last 7.3 is optional. But that's all that is involved in a QSO. So how long does a QSO take? Well, if everything goes well, it takes 90 seconds. But generally, things don't always go well. A lot of times you'll have a skip where he didn't hear you, you didn't hear him, we got to go again. Some people have ADD and they'll answer you, and then they'll go answer 2 other people, and then they'll come back and answer you again, and you just want to reach through the radio and slap them. Everybody has a different method of working FT8, and some people's methods are a little scatterbrain and ADD, which is cool. Okay, FT8. I found this to be astonishing. As of 2019, as of the dates there, March 2020 through March 2021. So we're talking just this ended just 3 months ago. On 6 meters, 50 megahertz, 84% of the contacts were made by FT8. You wonder why the phone's so dead? I mean, that's why. I'm sorry, folks. I don't make it and I don't decide. But I have to tell you, I'm one of those people that I like to play with friends. So I'm willing to go to their house. If you play in an empty house, you're going to be playing by yourself. And so I've just decided that this is where you got to go, especially if you're going to do FT8. 6 meters, the Magic Band. It's really big on FT8 because the Magic Band works really good with FT8 when it starts running. But if anybody's wondering why phone's so quiet, as much as I love phone just as much as you guys do, this is why. Taking ham radio by storm. This information here is a little old. This information goes through the first half of 2019. So this information is 2 years old. I could not find newer information for this particular graph, so that I'm giving you what I got. You can only imagine that the purple has gotten much bigger in the last couple of years. But you can see how it's literally pushing everything else out. And this is why FT8 became the most popular mode in amateur radio on the very first year it was introduced. That to me is an amazing statistic right there. You can see the green line there on the graph is FT8. It was introduced in June 2017. By Christmas 2017, it was the #1 mode in amateur radio. And it has been ever since. And it probably will be for quite some time. Other digital modes you might run into. And these are the same. We're just going to run through them real quick. But these are some of the new ones from WSJTX. And there's some of the other ones. But I think all of these here are WSJTX. These are all some of the new ones on there. That's FS4. And then they've also got this one, which is JT4. And WSJTX, the Princeton guys, they are really getting into the niche stuff, if you will. I mean, Aurora bouncing, microwave. They're talking about using things for propagation that are going to be very difficult to use, and finding somebody to make that QSO with on the other side's even more difficult. But that's what these guys are into, and I think it's really cool because this JT4 is designed for Earth, Moon, Earth. That's what EME is. Earth, Moon, Earth. Basically, you send your signal to the moon, it bounces off the moon, and then someone hears it on the other side of the planet. That requires a lot of energy, and it also requires a good collector on the other end. JT9 fast mode's useful for scatter propagation on VHF bands. Scatter is basically it hits there and it goes everywhere, and somebody's got a good enough antenna to still get to everywhere. Here's what that sounds like. I hardly heard anything in there, but whatever. And then we got QRA64. This is another new one, a mode for Earth, Moon, Earth using 64 character symbol alphabet. And let me stop right there. Has anybody done moon bouncing? I want to do moon bouncing. It's cost prohibitive right now for me to do moon bouncing. But it doesn't require a lot of special equipment, though. You'd be surprised. You would think you would need some big dish in the yard or this and that, but you can build a lot of it yourself, and it doesn't require that much special equipment. Let's see. Meteor scatter. My God, this is how difficult is that? But this is meteor scatter. It's a mode for meteor scatter. And then this is iScat, and that's another one. This one's intended for aircraft scatter and other types of scatter propagation. Aircraft scatter. That means literally bouncing your signal off of jet plane that's at 20,000 feet and hoping somebody hears it 400 miles away. I would love to do that one day. I just don't know. I don't know. Okay. It's got to be something to it because they put it in this system, right? All right. Let's look at a couple more here. Echo. This is a mode that they have just for measuring your own lunar echoes. You can actually send a signal to the moon, bounce it off, and then measure your signal coming back and kind of see what kind of propagation you're getting between here and the moon. Remember, you'll lose most of your signal in the first mile of the atmosphere. You lose 95% of it, like in the first mile of the atmosphere. Once it gets out of the atmosphere, gets up over the Earth a little ways, your signal will now propagate into space forever. What makes it out of the Earth's atmosphere? Doppler tracking, I don't have a sound for that one. And then whisper, which we've already done. I think, I'm not sure if that's the same sound. I think it is, but the whisper is just basically a tone that we did talk about that one already. All right, digital mode decoding software. I don't know a lot about all this software. I'm real good with WSJTX, so I'm going to open it up to you guys to let me know which of these software or what other software you guys have used in your in your digital communicating out there. And if you've used any of these, let me know. But here's the 5 that I came up with, which according to several websites are the 5 big ones. But I'm sure I've probably missed a good one here, so let us know. The top one and the bottom one are the 2 that I've used before, the FL Digi, and I also know some people in here use that. Notice that one does a lot of different things. It even does CW. It says digital modes. It does PSK 31, MFSK, RTTY, Olivia, WeFax. Hell is actually a kind of mode. It's not used that much, but there's different versions of Hell. It's interesting. But anyway, Ham Scope is another one. I've never used that one, but it does some of the other ones in here. Mix W. The thing is, once your radio is hooked to your computer, you can do just about anything with it. You can download any of these and start scanning around. And like I said, okay, this one does PSK 31. So find out what frequency people do PSK 31 on and park your knob there. And then let it scan overnight and see if it picks up anything, and see if you hear anything. Most of these modes have some kind of logging, even like the FT8. I can go back in the morning and pull up the PSK reporter, pull up my call letters and see exactly what I heard. And I can also go back in the log and see what my computer has heard on the log as well. So it gets great for that. But anyway, there's a bunch of them here. Does anybody want to talk about any of these? Anybody use these that like any of these they like, or does anybody have any other ones they would recommend?
I use FL Digi. There's another one in there called DigiPan, which is another free download.
Yeah, I have used DigiPan, and I've also used, oh gosh, what is it? DM780. That's part of the Ham Radio Deluxe program that I know Ian loves so well.
Yeah. Yeah, and
well, I mean, if you've already been taken to the cleaners by those people, you might as well use it.
Yeah, the Mix W you've got to pay for.
Okay, I found this one here. This is the pan. This one here. DigiPan.
Yeah, it was one of the original PSK 31 decoders into the program.
Whoever that is, you're really low. Let me see if I can turn that up just a little bit there. But yeah, that's a there you go. So it's one of those things you just got to figure out what you want to decode. A fun thing to decode, if you want to just get into decoding right away, don't worry about digital modes. Do the CW stuff. You could start doing that tonight. You could literally plug in a plug to your HF radio and plug it into your microphone on your computer, and you could pull down FL Digi and you could put on the CW decoder and go down to the low end of each band where the CW frequencies are.
Yeah, I
And
did that here recently on the CQ Worldwide WPX contest. Worked a bunch of stations, all the way up to 36 word per minute. It'd go faster than that, but that's the fastest one I worked. I was actually able to work it. I've got a little wind heater here, which I use what is it? It's M1MM logger. I use that, and then I use the FLDG on the side to just decode. Works pretty good.
yeah, oh man, I'll tell you, it was fun. I did that for a couple nights. I had a blast with that before I got my FT8 working. I went to and was listening to the guys going at it, and I downloaded it and I put it in there, and it's literally printing out. Now there's errors, but you can tell what they're saying, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it was kind of fun. It did a pretty good job of being able to figure out what these guys were typing back and forth, even though it wasn't a computer doing it. All right, so I'll put those back up again real quick here, but here's those, and Digipan was the other one that was recommended as well. But you guys definitely want to get into some of this stuff. This is so the future of ham radio. Okay, the next thing, voice communication modes. And I'm gonna skim this next section because you guys know this stuff, but it's an important review. Amateur radio, amplitude modulation. There we go. The amplitude modulation, double sideband, full carrier. It's the oldest form of voice modulation, and I didn't put the sounds of these in here because you guys all know what AM and FM and sideband sound like. So I wasn't going to insult your intelligence, but I do want to show you what it looks like on a waveform. And but anyway, basically the modulation is from 0 to 200, and by ranging the modulation up and down, that's how it makes the sounds that you hear, thus the name. It can still be done with relatively simple circuits, and I got to tell you, the neat thing about AM is we can still do it. There's an AM calling channel for 20 meters and for 40 meters. And if you go there on certain contests, if you look and if the contest gives you a multiplier for AM and you go sit on that AM calling channel with your radio on AM and you do some calling, you will make some QSOs. I've done it. I actually made a few AM QSOs. A word to the wise, I would run my radio at about 70 or 60 or 50% if you're doing AM, because I've been told it's a little hard on your finals and you're better off just not running it up at 100%. Okay, the next thing. Anything on AM? Anything else on AM? All right, FM.
Wait, I have a thing. AM generally sounds a whole lot better than FM and single sideband. It sounds better than AM, which is pretty incredible. CB radio is a good example. You'll hear some really crisp audio coming from AM, which you just don't get with ham radio.
Yeah, AM's got a nice sound. It's almost like today when somebody says, I still like to listen to my songs on a record player. There's just something about AM. I like it. I've always liked it, and it's a little bit of nostalgia, I guess, too. But I definitely like it. And you're right. If you've got a good signal, AM can be a very robust sound. The voice mode of choice, of course, for VHF and UHF operators in fixed mobile is, of course, frequency modulation. It offers good performance with simple equipment requirements. The audio signal controls or modulates the frequency of the transmitter. Remember, the last one we modulated with amplitude modulation, we modulate the amplitude or the power. With frequency modulation, we modulate the frequency. We attenuate the actual frequency of the signal. All right, and then you got single sideband, and that's what that looks like on your scope there, or your waterfall, I should say. And of course, we all know about single sideband and digital voice. Digital voice, of course, Yazoo, Fusion, D-Star, DMR. They're all kind of similar. and complicated mess, but certainly a mountain you guys could jump and crawl over if you want to. Yeah, enough said. Okay, radio propagation modes. This is fun stuff here. You know, you can bounce radio waves off anything, even your neighbor's house. It's pretty cool how this works, and I'm actually very surprised at the number of things that you can bounce your signal off of. And so, let's check something here. I guess it's because I'm screen sharing. Okay. Yep, there we go. Okay, that's fine. All right. So anyway, when we're talking about different ways that the radio can propagate, it can propagate with meteors, with the moon, with the aurora. There's so many different things that you can bounce your radio waves off of. It's almost crazy. And the first one we're going to talk about is, of course, the number one way we all talk on our FM radios, especially, is line of sight. Don't need to talk about this too much, but I do want to mention one thing. If you guys really haven't read much about the Radio Horizon, you can actually put in, there's a tool on the Southwest Florida TechNet website, and there's plenty of them on the internet, where you can put in the height of your tower and the height of the tower that you're trying to reach, like if 600 feet for the 685 or whatever, and you can put that in, and it will give you the radio horizon, meaning that it will tell you how many miles away you can go and still be above the curvature of the earth. You guys see how that line is drawn there? If that house was much further from the tower, that line would bisect the surface of the earth. When that happens, we're no longer using line of sight communication. We have to find another way. But it can still be done. My line of sight to Verna is over the horizon, but I can still hit it because I use a different way. Ground wave propagation. This is when radio waves, generally very low band radio waves, though, like 30 megahertz and low, your HF stuff, will actually cling along the surface and will go over the horizon and stay low towards the surface. And not a lot of it makes it this way, and it generally works better when it's vertically polarized. And of course, not many of us are doing these frequencies vertically polarized. So, yeah, that's probably why we don't do this a lot. But supposedly, if you vertically polarize, I don't know how you vertically polarize HF. You know, if you're doing like a big tall thing, I know we can buy like a what do they call the ones with the trap verticals and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. This is an interesting thing how it works, because I kind of get the two mixed up. Line of sight and ground wave are actually two different things. Ground wave actually is where it clings to the surface of the earth, and line of sight is exactly what it says. All right, and then we got skywave propagation. This is the one we use when we're doing whatever it is that we're doing. And this is where we normally get our long-range communications in HF. And this is the most common form of amateur radio operators making long-distance QSOs, is using the E and the F layers of the atmosphere. Here we go. Meteor scattering. Can you believe that? You actually can bounce your radio signal off of the streak left behind by a meteor. I find that to be really cool. I don't know if I'll ever get the opportunity to actually do it, but it seems really cool. Here's what a QSO actually sounds like using meteor scatter. Literally a pileup on Meteor Skip. Notice the first guy he talked to was definitely Meteor Skip. Notice it's kind of, I call it the helium balloon sound. It really kind of the mechanical, and you can tell that that's got a lot of those qualities to it. And but that's what it sounds like, a QSO that was actually bounced off a meteor trail after it went through the atmosphere. The next one is Aurora backscatter. This is interesting. There's a lack of modulation. This one doesn't work too well with voice, but it does. But it doesn't work that well. It does work on HF and VHF, and it is very angle sensitive, meaning that wherever the Aurora is, you literally have to have a good bounce line on either side. So the bounce has to get you to where you're going. It's not just going to go to a lot of places. It's pretty direct. The radio auroras are observed mostly at high latitudes. This is something we're probably not going to do a lot of down here, but I want you to hear what it sounds like. This is what a CW contact sounds like, bounced off of an aurora. Notice there's hardly any modulation there at all. It's just almost like a controlled distortion in there or something. I don't know what you want to call it. But they were able to make a QSO through that. So that was pretty cool. But that's Aurora backscatter. And sporadic E, we've talked about this a lot. I'm not going to beat it to death tonight. It occurs in the mid latitudes. I will tell you, I don't see it much down in the equatorial regions at all. It really does seem to be a thing that happens, say between southern Canada, very southern Canada, and about Florida. When you get south of us, there is some stations that are doing some pretty good stuff down in the Caribbean, but once you get any further than that towards the equator, you don't really see it much anymore. And I have not seen any cross-equator contacts on 6 meter using sporadic E. And I'm not sure, but I believe there's a reason for that. I don't think it works that way. Most of the contacts on sporadic E, the clouds seem to move through the middle of our country every day. They come through Europe, and they come through the middle of our country. And it seems like that seems to happen each day. And they move from east to west. There's no single cause for this mysterious propagation mode. It's believed it's caused by a thin sheet of ionized cloud, whatever you want to call it, and the ionization patch drifts from it drifts westward or west at speeds of about a little over 100 miles an hour. You can actually see this. You can watch it moving across. Go ahead, John.
Oh, nothing. I'm sorry. I'm talking to myself.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's see here. Typically, sporadic E is observed on 1 to 3 successive days and then remains absent for a few days. That is absolutely true. I can tell you that personally. It runs a 5 or 6 day cycle, like everything else in the world, like everything else in the universe. It runs a cycle. And it was big today. It'll be big tomorrow. And Sunday, it'll start weaning back off again. I'm starting to plot this on a calendar. Okay. You can actually plot what are going to be good and bad sporadic E days based on a calendar. Today was really good. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday sucked. Last weekend was good. So you get 2 good days. You get 2 bad days with a transition day on either between each. So it's like a 6 day, an 8 day cycle. Anyway, sporadic E is not a small thing. If it happens, it happens, and it usually happens on a fairly large scale. It's not something that just suddenly opens up at 7 o'clock at night. If the sporadic E is running, it'll run into the evening. If it's not running, it's just not running. And it's usually gone by local midnight. I've run it as late as about 11 o'clock. Midnight would be pretty late. This is what a QSO sounds like working on 28 megahertz on 10 meters, working sporadic E.
Yes, good evening to you. Good morning from New Zealand. 5 Oscar Uniform X-ray. Zulu Lima 2 Oscar Kilowatt. My name is Dave. Delta Alpha Victor Echo. Dave. I am portable in my caravan at the beach on the east coast, North Island, New Zealand. And you're 5/9 plus 10 to 15. Very strong signal into New Zealand this morning. Over. So very good propagation this morning. Nice to work you again, and good morning from a very sunny Sunday morning here in ZL land. Fox 5, Ocean United X-ray, ZL 2 Oscar Kilowatt, portable at the beach, over. Yes, congratulations on your station. It's working very well. That antenna is working.
Imagine making a QSO in New Zealand on phone. I'd love to do that. I think my longest phone contact's been like 1,000 miles. Let's see here. And you can tell sporadic E doesn't sound too much different than your regular sideband communication. Tropospheric ducting is something that happens mostly on your upper frequencies, your VHF, your UHF, and it can also affect 50 megahertz, your 6 meter. And it's basically a thermal layer in the atmosphere. And I don't have an actual example of that. But what happens is the signal just tunnels through the atmosphere and is dropped 150 miles away. And if you've ever been in town and your radio station goes out and you're hearing some radio station north of here, it's tropospheric ducting. It affects 100 megahertz pretty readily, actually. And I know my station gets pushed south. People in North Fort Myers will be hearing a Spanish station from Tampa because everything gets pushed south. So that tropospheric ducting can also assist you or hurt you making QSOs. But usually when ducting sets up, it works both ways. Tropospheric modes. Radio waves in VHF and UHF bands can travel somewhat beyond the visual horizon due to refraction in the troposphere, the bottom layer of the atmosphere below 20 kilometers. This is due to the changes in the refraction index of the air with temperature and pressure. Tropospheric delay is a source of error in radio ranging techniques such as a global positioning system. This can allow you, this is something else that can allow you to get over the radio horizon. And this is probably what helps me get in the Verna here. You're actually reflecting off a very low level of the atmosphere with a higher frequency. And I think that this is probably a lot of what helps us here when we're trying to get that repeater that's 60 miles away and our horizon's 40 or 30 miles, that this is what helps us get there. We've got tropospheric scattering. This is communicating with microwave radio. This generally is just microwave, very high frequency radio. Well, you can't say that, right? Because that's VHF. Tremendously high frequency radio. And it's able to give you distances of like 200 miles, which, as you guys know, for microwave frequencies is pretty good. And basically radio signals are transmitted in a narrow beam aimed just above the horizon in the direction of the receiving station. As the signals pass through the troposphere, some of the energy is scattered back towards Earth because the troposphere is turbulent and has a high propagation of moisture, and it scatters those radio signals and they're refracted. Consequently, only a tiny portion of the radio energy is actually received by the collecting antenna. This is so important with all this stuff. You've got to have not only a powerful transmitter, but you got to have a really good antenna on the other end, because this stuff is really low power when it comes back. Rain scatter. Here's another one. Do you know what rain scatter? There's a certain technology out there that uses this every single day, and you probably see it every single day. And that's radar. That's the rain radar that we see every day on the news. Uses this technology here, where we actually bounce microwave signals off of raindrops. That's why, I don't know if you guys ever noticed, they'll have a situation where there's an earthquake and the weather radar will pick up the fact that all the birds took off and flew at the same time. Weather radar can pick up cicadas moving in large groups. It can pick up a lot of other things, but it's really good at picking up rain, and that's what we normally use it for. It picks up ice pellets and snowflakes and all that kind of stuff too. But that's mostly what that's used for, is rain. Rain scatter is used for that. Moon bounce, EME. I want to do this eventually. I really do. Doesn't require quite as much as you think, but it does require some stuff. Moon bounce is a form of radio communication used by radio amateurs and others that affect global communications. It's done on 2 meters, and basically you shoot your signal at the center of the moon and it comes back towards Earth. It's just as simple as that. You're basically using it as a reflector. It's along with takes relatively high power, and of course on the other end it takes relatively high gain antennas to get it to come back. Yeah, here is an example of what a radio communication sounds like bouncing off the moon. If I can get it to play. 5.4. Well, I guess that's more honest than 5.9. Sounded more 1.1 to me, but all right, let's try this one.
You are 5 and 8, 5 and 7, 5 and 8. Very good signal. So 5 Fox 2 Tango United is usually Yankee 4 Fox F GM, Foxtrot Germany, Mexico, Portable 4. Go ahead, over.
And that's what moon bounce sounds like. It's not too bad, not too hard to understand if the signal's strong enough, of course. And then here's a few others. Go ahead. Last person.
Yeah, I've got a ham friend up in Tampa who does moon bounce, and he uses single sideband and FT8, and he's been making a lot of FT8 contacts on the moon.
No. I mean, really? I mean, what do I got to figure out what I need. Well, I got to figure out what I need.
He's doing it at 1600 megahertz with a dish, but there used to be a ham over in Cape Coral that, but he's silent key now. But he did it with 2 meters, but he had 4 Yagis.
Well, I'm halfway there. Hey, my dad was a plumber. I can build 12 Yagis. How many do you want? All right, let's see here. I want to do that, seriously. We've got, this is some other stuff that's kind of weird. Knife edge, or let's start with airplane scattering is, it's just what it sounds like. You're bouncing your signal off an airplane. Good luck with that. The next one, lightning scattering. It's a phenomenon that they know happens, but no one's used it yet. And I'm like, don't we have enough modes anyway? And then you got knife edge diffraction, which is a propagation mode where radio waves are bent around sharp edges. For example, the mode is used to send radio signals over a mountain range with a line of sight path when a line of sight path is not available. However, the angle cannot be too sharp or the signal will not diffract. The diffraction mode requires increased signal strength, so high power or better antennas is needed. So basically what they're doing is they're using angles to make enough of the signal go at a certain angle over the top of something in order that they can still get it. Okay, and those are not used very much. International Space Station. we can actually talk to the space station. A lot of people have heard about this program, but they don't know much about it. There's the frequencies. You can actually listen to it yourself. You can actually do all the stuff with this yourself, and check it out. You can actually, if you know when it's going on, you have to go on and look, but you can actually listen to it yourself right here. Here's all the frequencies and everything you need. This is what a QSO with the space station sounds like.
Anyone assist? Anyone assist? Anyone assist? Anyone assist? Calling NA1 SS. Here is Oscar November 4 Echo Sierra Charlie. Oscar November 4 Euro Space Station. Oscar November 4 Euro Space Center. Calling NA1 SS. NA1 SS. Here is ON4 Echo Sierra Charlie. Over.
SS calling ON4 Echo Sierra Charlie. How do you read?
Hello, anyone SS? This is ON4 Echo Sierra Charlie, and we're very happy to hear you. My name is Gaston, and we are located in Belgium in the Euro Space Center. And we have youngsters here in the room. Youngsters on Space Camp. There are over 100 youngsters. We have also the media and VIP. And we're very happy.
And to all the young children there.
Oh, thank you, Peggy.
Scary for me. I really wanted to be here. Over.
All right. Well, then.
And you get the idea there. The ground guys doing most of the talking, but anyway, let's see what this one is.
Quebec, Joe, thank you for you and good to hear you again. 73 0.
Victor Alpha 2 Charlie Sierra Tango.
Victor Alpha 2 Charlie Sierra Tango, 0.
Romeo Sierra 0 India Sierra Sierra. This is Victor Alpha 2 Charlie Sierra Tango. Good evening. You are 5 by 9. My name is Claude Charlie Lima Alpha Uniform and Delta Echo. I'm located 15 miles northeast of Montreal, Quebec, Canada. It's pleasant to hear you, my friend, and thank you very much for the contact. Over.
Victor Alpha 2 Charlie Sierra Tango. Claude, nice to meet you. This is Valerie and Edward. To be contact with you. Thank you for the contact.
Thank you very much. 7-3.
And there you go. So it's quite an honor to be able to talk to those guys up there if you can get to do it. But you do. There's a lot of planning and some equipment that's involved, and it doesn't happen every day. So it's you might get it all set up, and it may be a little while before you can actually make it happen. You know, it's one of those kind of things. And then this is a QSO on a ham satellite using FM.
21st of February, Thursday 2002, UO 14, acquisition of signal at 22:12 hours, 12 past 10. Got about 5 minutes to go.
VK3 JOO, VK3 UKF. VK3 JOO, VK3 UKF.
I think it was Kevin that was there, George. VK3 Uniform Kilo Foxtrot, VK3 UH, copy Kevin.
Yeah, Roger, VK3, Uniform Hotel, VK3, Uniform Kilo Fox.
But you get the idea. And that was done on FM through a ham satellite. And of course, the other way is through the internet. I wasn't going to pull down Echo Link so you could hear it. That'd have been a waste. Okay, here's a few that Joseph sent me that I thought were really cool. We got HARP, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. It's a scientific. Anybody that's ever listened to Coast at Night knows what HARP is. HARP was thought for years to be doing some kind of secret research, contacting aliens or beaming people into space or something, and it's auroral research. Now, whether other things are done, who knows? But the point is it's auroral research. They're doing research on the ionosphere and the behaviors of it. And but it is the world's most capable high power, high frequency transmitter for study of the ionosphere. And it transmits between 2.7 and 10 megahertz. And here's a few examples in a row here of what this sounds like.
Seems like a mad dolphin.
I'm just giving you some samples because it's pretty bad. I think that was the sci-fi sounds from Twilight Zone. Okay, you're about to take a journey beyond sight and sound.
Oh, yeah.
Wait.
Then there was the Russian woodpecker.
Yeah, there you go. All right. So anyway, that's HARP, and you may hear that. HARP is the largest antenna on Earth. And so when they start talking, you might hear it. I don't believe they use amateur radio bands as any kind of habit, though. They use, I mean, the government has all these bands that they can do what they want with. Anyway, the next thing is the WWV and the WWVH. And what these are basically are time beacons. And there's one located in Fort Collins, Colorado, and there's another one located in Hawaii. And both stations broadcast a timing signal 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you can pull this up and listen to it. This is a good way to test your radio, good way to test your antenna. Here's something else you can receive out there that's broadcasting 24/7. And look what frequencies it's on. These are great frequencies. Remember, most amateur radios will receive all frequencies. They just won't transmit in these frequencies. So you'll be able to actually use these time beacons. And I'm going to let it go here so you can hear what it sounds like.
I love that number station.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Pulling up the info on it now because it shows kind of a neat
It's got a
beat.
good beat, but I'm not sure you can dance to it.
Oh, you can,
Showing commercials on WWV.
I've got the actual broadcast format here. Let me show you guys. Let me pull it up.
At the tone, 20 hours, 52 minutes, coordinated universal time.
See, it's a clock. It's a clock. It looks very much like one of our broadcast clocks. Or Stargate, depending on what show you watch. Dial the gate.
I'm kind of a WWV, I don't know what you call it, I guess a fan of it. I don't know. I really like the sound it makes, and I've done a lot of research on it. There's actually a tour video of the actual station on YouTube. It's pretty cool.
And then here's the second one. They're pretty much about the same, but they're a little different.
20 hours, 53 minutes.
WWVH is actually offset its announcements and stuff from WWV. They have slightly different schedules, so they don't overlap.
But this is designed to where you could literally put a piece of equipment on this, listen to it, and have it react to a certain time of the minute.
For defined radios, because those can occasionally have a very slight offset. So you dial up WWV and you know you have a perfect 10 megahertz exact signal. That's always extremely accurate.
Yeah, I like that. That's pretty cool. And remember, guys, it gives you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different chances to get it there, and 4 for the other one. So it's on different bands, so you can test propagation on different bands using this. And the last thing is the automatic picture transmission system, or the APT. It's an analog image transmission system developed for use on weather satellites. It is introduced in the 60s. A user station anywhere in the world can receive local data at least twice a day from each satellite as it passes overhead. This is something you guys can do. I'm going to turn it over to Joseph now and let him talk about this for a minute, because we're going to be doing this next week.
So this thing here, there's these satellites called NOAA weather satellites, NOAA, from the National Weather Service. And there's a couple of them. I think there's about maybe 4 active ones at the moment. And they're in a orbit around Earth, so you can only get one maybe once or twice a day. When they pass overhead, they're on a frequency of about 137 megahertz, and they send out this APT image signal. And it's the same thing like SSTV. If you have a radio or a sound card, you can pipe the audio straight into a piece of software, and it will actually decode the image and give you you can see clouds in the infrared spectrum over Earth pretty much. What we're going to do next week is actually a slightly different thing. It's the geostationary satellites, which is a little bit different than these, because these you actually do have to track with a Yagi if you want to get a really good signal, or put up an inverted V dipole somewhere high to get them as they pass over. You can usually get about 1 image per pass, because they go beyond the curvature of the Earth, and you can no longer get the signal. But it's a really cool way to get images of relatively live weather, even with the internet out. So if there's ever a massive disaster and the satellites still work, you can still get image data of Earth from space using nothing but an application on a computer and radio. So it's a pretty cool little thing. I like the APT image sound. It's a cool sound that it makes. Back over to you, Ian.
All righty. And yeah, we're going to do that next week, and we're going to talk about that. I'm going to try to get it going here between now and then, and start receiving those images. And
it's actually here. You can do it just with any 2-meter antenna. My 2-meter antenna in the attic. If I tune my Yaesu here to 137, it's like 137.1 maybe. I can actually hear it.
I was just tuning my Chinese radio, which let's see here. I was just tuning it to 137. You said 137.1.
It might be 137.0 actually.
Well, I'm on the website here. I'm trying to see if it's on the website.
I think it's just 137. Oh, here we go. Do these have frequencies? I think it's just 137.0. But I let this radio record overnight using Audacity, and you can also track the satellite online. But sure enough, at some point during the night, probably 1 or 2 a.m., the satellite passed overhead, and in the morning I had an audio recording of the signal it puts out. So it wasn't a super good recording.
Could you have just left it running on the computer and woke up to an image?
Yes.
Oh, I'm doing this tonight.
Yeah, I've actually got I've got like 1 image from it. If you want a good signal, you do have to put up an inverted V or something like that. But with a 2-meter antenna, you can get signal. It just won't be amazing.
Yeah, well, I could just hook it up to my long wire, just receiving.
There you go. That might work.
It might work. Well, it just says APT is a low-resolution analog transmission of data from polar orbiting satellites. 2 channels of reduced resolution 4-kilometer data are continuously transmitted using analog VHF signals on 137 megahertz at reduced rates, 120 lines per minute, allowing users of simple, low-cost ground station equipment for APT reception. It doesn't give a kilohertz. It just says 137 megahertz. Now, what software do I need? Is that in here? Necessary equipment. Let's see. Anyway, well, we're going to get into this next week. I don't want to take the thunder from next week's show, so let's save that for next week. I'm going to get it figured out between now and then, so I can talk intelligently about it, or at least make it look like I am. So let's go back to here. I'm just sitting here thinking, we're starting to do next week's show, and I don't want to do that to I want to do that to Joseph, because he's got this going on here. All right. So anyway, this is what it sounds like, since we are doing the sounds tonight. And it's just basically sending it. You know what it is? Basically, it's slow scan TV. It's the same basic idea. I'm sure it's not the same digital sounds or whatever, but it's the same basic thing. It's sending down lines of that turns into a picture, basically. So we're gonna figure that out for next week. Okay, let's go to the next thing. As always, all of your resources are available on the Southwest Florida TechNet website. If you guys find a resource out there that you think I should add to the website, I can add as many pages to this website as I want. So I want you to send it to me. Just email me and say, hey, I'd like to add this to the website. And I'll put it in here somewhere. I got a lot of stuff on here, especially on, with all the propagation stuff and everything. It's some amazing stuff. And I believe you'll find everything in here, including the radio path study tools and stuff that we were talking about earlier. All right, be a co-host on a TechNet. Really need you guys. I need help. Okay, I've been putting these things together every week, and it's getting to be a lot for me. 2-hour presentation every week is rough. Luckily, I've had some time the last few weeks, and it shows. But I do need some people to help me with stuff. It doesn't have to be a huge topic. It only needs to be 30 minutes to an hour. I'm not expecting you to fill 2 hours. I'll make your slideshow. I'll help you with it, and I'll co-host with you. So it's pretty easy, straightforward. I'll do a lot to help you out with it, and basically we'll bring it together. You can take as much a bigger role as you want. But please let me know if you want to do any topic. I don't care what. If you want to deep dive into AM one night, or you want to just talk about one or two bands one night, or certain contests, I don't care. I'm up for whatever. But I need some other people to help me with both ideas and assistance. So if you guys could do that, I would really, really appreciate it. We already talked about next week. I didn't do this slide because we didn't have time. So there you go. Okay. And, but yeah, next week's TechNet's going to be great. All right. The sounds of ham radio we just did. Glad you guys, I hope you guys liked it. I hope that you guys heard a lot of different sounds that maybe it'll help you identify when you get out there on the radio. The one more thing here, and then we're going to move on. I'm going to talk a little bit about Magic Band and some contests. There's a contest this weekend. The Southwest Florida Tech team, I've got 6 members now, and we're starting to move forward with some of the things that we need to do with the ARRL and with FCC and different things. I'm needing more people to join. Doesn't cost anything. I'm not asking for money. I want commitment and time, I'm not even really asking for anything specific. I just want you to join, come to our meeting, be a part of founding this new group, a new active group for folks that are really into it. And if If you want to do that, just go back to the website where you found us tonight, the TechNet website. Click that big blue button there. It'll explain everything you need to know, and just click join. And just all I need is your email address, your telephone number. I think that's all I ask for. Your call sign and what you're interested in. I think that's it. And I put you on an email list. You'll get a couple emails a week that'll have ham radio news and what's going on with the club. I've already sent 2 of those out. I'm going to have at least about 2 or 3 of those a week. They've got space weather updates, updates on what we're doing with the TechNet, updates on the club, updates on ham radio itself. I've got news items in there. So if you guys sign up for the club, you get the email. It might be worth something to you. All right. The next thing I wanted to talk about is the 6 meter update. I like to do a 6 meter update every night because 6 meter is cranking right now. I'm going to tell you guys something. I know I've said this before, and you guys have probably most of you heard me say this before, but I'm going to say it again. This is a blast. The figuring out where the openings are on the Magic Band is a blast. I got to tell you, it's just some of the biggest fun I've had. I put up this 5-element 6 meter Yagi, and being able to point that right in the right direction and make those contacts. I made contacts, 5, 6, 7 contacts, I think, 8 or 9 contacts in Europe this morning on 6 meters. We had an opening. I'll show you that here in just a minute. Anyway, the Magic Band is so cool because nobody even really knows exactly what causes it, but it's ionized cloud layers basically in the atmosphere. And this week we saw highs and lows in 6 meter. Last weekend was busy. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday all kind of sucked, with Tuesday and Wednesday being really bad. So today is a good day. Tomorrow's going to be another good day. It runs in a 7 or 8 day cycle. This was this morning when I woke up. I was like, oh my God, it's open early, and it's open for Florida. Look at that. And I swung my beam around, and I put my beam at 25 degrees azimuth, and just like that, one at a time. And then slowly the cloud moved over towards the United States, and everything changed. They moved from east to west, so you could actually follow it. Here's some other examples. In the first one, that cloud was actually sitting over right about Indianapolis, okay? And you can see how everybody's talking to people on the other side of Indianapolis, and they're using that cloud as a reflection. The second one, it was sitting over Roanoke, Virginia, and you can see people in Mexico and Texas making QSOs with people in New York and New England, and people in Florida making QSOs with people in the Midwest. It's wherever the X is, that's where your cloud is. Notice in the third one over here, it's sitting right over Dallas, Texas. And you've got people in California. I worked this. I got 8 or 9 people in California that day. This was California to Florida. It was open over the top of Texas. And there was some other minor openings, but that's where it was. It came across here instead of up here like it normally does. Here's a couple more examples. Here's a large opening over north central U.S. It was a huge opening. This cloud was as big as 9 states. This was the biggest opening I've seen so far. And I got in on quite a bit of this. Even though it was mostly in the Northeast, I was wide open into the Midwest. And I also was able to get like Washington State and Oregon and places like that out west on 6 meters. So that's really cool. And it also affects 10 meters. If you look over here on the right side, I don't know what's wrong with that middle TV. It quit working. But the one on the right there, you can see that's 10 meters. And this was a neat one because 10 meters was open between the United States and Brazil. And it was open between Brazil and Europe. But I want you to notice something. There's no lines between Europe and the United States because there was no reflective sporadic activity between those two countries, between those two areas. So what ended up happening was you're not getting any QSOs. Nobody can hear anybody in Europe and the United States and vice versa. But you're getting all these really good ones down into Brazil. It's just an amazing thing that happens. And it just shows you, unlike solar activity, which tends to affect the globe or half the globe or a fourth of the globe, this affects a few states or maybe a country or two. It's a smaller phenomenon. So it's also, you're not going to get 5,000-10,000 mile contacts with this. Pretty rare. But every now and then you can get a three hop or a 4 hop. Anyway, fun stuff. I absolutely love the whole thing with 6 meter. Anyway, that's what we got for that. Does anybody have anything on 6 meter? Okay. Let's see here. Let's pull up. This weekend, we've got a contest going on that might be interesting to some people. If you've never contested before, this might be a unique opportunity for you to just at least make a few contacts on the air. I want you to remember something. When you're contesting, you don't have to turn in a logbook. People think, well, I used to think, well, if I contest and then I don't turn in a logbook, then all those people I contested won't get credit. For most contests, that's not the case. Okay, it's kind of an honor system thing. As long as most of them are confirmed, it's okay. And that's kind of what I've found. So it's really not necessarily the case that if you don't send a log in, that someone else will lose credit. And remember, you're not in it to win it. I'm not going to win these things probably ever. But it's a time when people are out there on the radio talking. And this particular weekend, we've got a really cool thing going on. It's the ARRL June VHF contest, and you can see there it runs from the 12th, which is tomorrow. It runs, it's about what will be 2 in the afternoon to through till Sunday evening. And basically, I want you guys to remember, the reason I'm making a big deal about this is because I'm a Magic Band guy and I want to show you something. This one here, you're thinking VHF contest. I don't know if I want to get involved in that. Notice it's 50 megahertz and up. So you can do this contest with 50 megahertz, which is the Magic Band, which has been running wide open some days. Tomorrow should be a good Magic Band day. There should be people doing this contest on the Magic Band. So I'm hoping to do 6 meter voice tomorrow. Actually get on the voice and do voice with my Yagi. So I'm kind of looking forward to that because all I've done 6 meters so far pretty much, except talk to a few people in town. All I've done on 6 meters has been FT8. So that's what's going on this weekend as far as contests. There's a bunch of other ones going on, but I didn't really notice any of them that were worth mentioning. This one, though, the June VHF contest, works pretty much like your standard ARRL contest. You can use your MM1, MM1N, LBGT. I get all that mixed up. MN1, M1N1, whatever it is. Anyway. Yes, that one. You can use that software to log down your QSOs if you want to. And what's neat about that software is, let's say I work you, and then let's say an hour later I come across you again, and I hear your call sign. When I type in your call sign, it immediately tells me you're a duplicate, and so I can just move right on to the next person. So it's really cool that way. But it's good to use software, even if you're not planning on turning the logbook in. It still doesn't hurt to learn how to set up the software for that particular contest. And then the only other thing you got to do with a contest is learn what the exchange is. The exchange is usually, in most contests, it's you'll give them your call sign, and it'll usually be a signal report and then like a state or a zone. A lot of times it'll be, your call sign, and you'll say you're 5'9" in South Florida, or whatever it is, whatever you're supposed to say. And you figure that out by going to the find the rules here, and it will tell you exactly what the exchange is. And it says right here, your exchange is your 4-character grid square. So you're going to say, KO4EFS, and they'll say KO4EFS, go ahead. And then I basically would just say Echo Lima 96. And he'll go 10-4, Echo Lima 96, I'm ... He'll give me his 4 call sign and then say 7-3, and that'll be it. He'll be right off to the next one. It's contesting. it sounds daunting. It sounds a little scary at first. You're like, I'm going to be stupid on here and I don't know what to do. I found contesters, people say, oh, contesters, man, they're a bunch of jerks. I have not found that. I have found most contesters to be pretty nice. They want me to learn it because I'm one of the people they contest with. So they want me to learn it. My first one, I was working like the third or fourth contact. I kept screwing everything up, and this is 5-9 Echo Lima, and I'm trying to get it. And he comes back and he goes, "Slow down, brother. You can go as slow as you want with me, okay?" He goes, "I know I'm going fast, but and he was just really cool, And we talked for a second. He says, "You're doing fine. Let's go," And so I found it to be really cool. One contest I did, we were supposed to give the year that we got our ticket. And so all the time I kept contesting, I'm telling people my number was 21. And I tell people KO4 EFS, South Florida, 21. And they'd be like, 21? Because it's like, which one? But anyway, it was kind of funny. And everybody kept telling me, congratulations on getting your ticket. Because I was like, I just got it, But I kept saying 20. It was 20. I was saying 20, actually, because I got my ticket in 20. But it was kind of fun. But each contest will have a different exchange. This one here is just a 4-character grid square. All right. Does anybody have anything else with contests? Let me see what else there was up here. There's VK Shires contest. I don't know about any of these other ones.
It's Australia.
The Portugal Day contest. Yeah, see, none of these others. There is another 6-meter contest going on too. I don't know where that's centered at. I wish this thing would actually go to the right part of the page when I clicked it, but whatever. I'll look at that. Anything that gets people on the bands. I look at contests as just something to get people to get a mic in their hand, Anyway. All right. Anything else on contesting? All right. Everybody, it's been 2 hours and 8 minutes. It's been a great net so far. Before we go, I do want to open it up to anybody that has anything they would like to bring up, any announcements or anything they'd like to discuss or any projects they're working on. Come now. Okay. You guys are easy. All right. Well, the last thing then is space weather, and there's just not a lot going on. We just entered a 3-day period of quiet, and there's really just not a lot going on. The solar eclipse photos are coming in. There was a solar eclipse, as you guys know, for the Northeast, and it was a sunrise eclipse, which is I like sunrise and sunset eclipses because they make the best pictures. And there was some neat pictures from that. And you go to spaceweather.com, one of my favorite websites, and they've got the gallery right there for you to look at. And this other thing that they're talking about is they keep talking about whether we're going to have a big year or a small year this year when it comes to the solar cycle. And an interesting thing, if we go back and we look at all the solar cycles and we plot them out going back as far as we have records, they kind of think this is going to be a mediocre year, probably about average. But there's a group of scientists out there that feel that this year we're entering into a termination event, and it's this thing where the magnetic field does this thing, and they believe that it's actually going to be a bigger year than the other scientists. So that's like when someone tells me that science is settled, I laugh really loud. But this is some interesting stuff. But if you're into the in-depth stuff, but anyway, spaceweather.com, a great website. Check it out. But there's not a lot going on Space Weather-wise right now. Hopefully, we'll get something going on because I like when we get that solar flux up over 85 or 90, and it gets really cool. All right, anything else?
Well, as always, very good presentation. I loved it.
Thank you.
You had such good samples for the WWV and the APT. The ones I was going to give you weren't even that good. Congrats on that.
Yeah, I think the one for the time thing, I think I actually got that. I might have got that right off of one of their sites, I think, or something. It was like an example. But
Sounds like it. There was no noise whatsoever.
yeah, it was pretty good. But yeah, you guys can check some of that stuff out. Like I said, it transmits all the time. Those the time code ones. Anyway. All right, boy, I'm tired. It's been a week. We had a crazy show again today. We've had some crazy shows this week. I don't want to get into it, but it's almost like Howard Stern had a bus crash with Rush Limbaugh. It's been just kind of strange. All right. Does anybody have anything else? I'm going to go ahead and close the meeting out, and then I'll hang out for a few minutes after that. But does anybody have anything else? I'm going to close it out. All right. If you want to hang around for a minute afterwards, that's cool. But I'm going to go ahead and close it out. This is the Southwest Florida TechNet. My name's Ian Hicken. If you'd like to get with me, it's ko4efs@gmail.com. That's Kilo Oscar 4 Echo Foxtrot Sierra @gmail.com. I'm always looking for your ideas and your suggestions. Thank you very much for attending tonight. This is the Southwest Florida TechNet signing off.